returns for election 2026.
In fact, let's get some insight on tonight's election results. Senior political reporter Jason Whiteley just finished anchoring our election show on WFAA+. What's your big takeaway?
You know, these are usually long nights we have. We talk about the counting going way into the night. Not tonight. This thing was wrapped up really in the first 20 to 25 minutes. Big night for MAGA Republicans. That's the huge takeaway. Ken Paxton wins, sends John Cornyn into retirement. Think about this. Cornyn has represented Texas in the U.S. Senate for 24 years.
I know.
He will not go back for a fifth term. Voters said no way at all. Paxton, there was 64% of the vote with 80% of the precincts reporting. Cornyn was almost emotional tonight when he gave a concession speech to Paxton. It was stunning tonight. This is a changing of the guard in the Republican Party. And Chris, you've been around long enough to know this. Cornyn was the last Reagan-Bush Republican elected official in Texas still standing. Tonight, the Republican Party of Texas has made the full shift to MAGA Republicans with this win tonight by Ken Paxton.
All right, Jason, you know, we have crews with both candidates. Let's start with Jobin Puneker with the Paxton campaign in Plano.
Yeah, Chris, there were obviously a lot of happy people in this building. They expected a close race. It was not that. They expected a long night. It was not that either. Obviously a huge night for MAGA Republicans, as Jason said, and who Paxton calls Paxton Patriots. Now, many of the people we spoke would say it was time for a change from Senator Cornyn. They felt Ken Paxton would be the fighter in Washington that they needed. He walked out to a large ovation. Close to 400 people showed up to this event in Plano. Paxton, you know, is not exactly an engaging speaker. There were times we felt this room really wanted to erupt but didn't. But of course, his message did resonate here. He thanked President Trump for his endorsement. He talked about what he feels are the threats from the left, the threats to democracy. He said he'll take on the woke mob. That energized the crowd a little bit. Paxton now turns his attention to November and James Tallarico.
Tonight is not the end of a campaign. Tonight is the beginning of the fight to preserve every value we hold dear. The future of Texas and the future of America is on the line, and I intend to do everything I can to expand our movement. I've won 3 statewide elections because I know how critical it is for our party to come together, and that's what we must do now. Without a shadow of a doubt, I will be the Democrats' #1 target in November.
But there's been a lot of division.
Obviously, in his speech, later on in his speech, Paxton did say that he was thankful and grateful to Senator Cornyn for his service to the country, his service to Texas as well. Obviously, Paxton will need to convince Cornyn's base by November. And that's where we join our colleague, Teresa Woodard, who's with Cornyn's camp.
Yeah, Jobin, Senator Cornyn did not explicitly come out and publicly endorse Ken Paxton tonight by any means. He did, however, make it clear that he plans to support all the Republicans up and down the ballot come November. But what a stunning headline tonight. A 4-term Republican senator defeated in a Republican primary in a state still dominated by Republican politics. The senator was with his wife and his 2 daughters and his team as he quietly came into a hotel conference room down here in Austin. After 18 straight election victories, this loss means the end of a 42-year-long career in Texas politics. First elected district judge in 1984, then to the Texas Supreme Court, then Texas Attorney General, then U.S. Senator in 2002. He was running for a 5th term, but Texas voters did not give it to him. Instead, the Trump-endorsed Ken Paxton won after that nasty campaign, but Cornyn pledging to work to hold on to the Republican majority.
There's a simple rule in elections, you've heard me say it before, and that is the candidate who gets the most votes wins. The party in the majority gets to govern, and my hope is to keep my party in power for generations.
I think one big question is, will we see Cornyn publicly endorsing Ken Paxton, maybe even campaigning for him or with him? He did not take questions from the media tonight, but when he was finishing his remarks, one journalist did holler at him and say, will you support Ken Paxton? Jason, Chris, the only thing he said was, I'll have more to say later. We'll send it back to you up in Dallas.
Teresa, thanks a lot for that. The other thing to watch here tonight, too, Chris, is over the next 7 months, with the time remaining that Cornyn has in office, does he back the president? I asked Cornyn today before polls closed, did you feel betrayed at all that Paxton got the endorsement from the president? And Cornyn said he did not feel betrayed, but after tonight's stunning defeat, I'm curious to see what's going to happen with how Cornyn votes, whether he backs the president in the next few months.
Yeah, with the margins so slim right now in Congress, that is something to keep an eye on. We're also tracking another high-profile race on the Democratic side.
Since we came on the air here in the last 4 or 5 minutes, the Associated Press has just called the race for Colin Allred against Julie Johnson. This is for the Democratic nomination to House District 33. This is a race really that Democrats have really been fighting over. It's gotten really bitter here lately.
Yeah, Republicans redrew the boundaries of this district at President Trump's request. It covers this meandering swath of Fort Worth, touches Farmers Branch, and back down into West Dallas.
Results show that Allred has won the race here. He has 8,400 votes, 55% of the vote to 45%. That was the old district there, Chris, I think we just saw. The new district is solely in Dallas County here, but Colin Allred defeating an incumbent Congresswoman, Julie Johnson. Julie Johnson, the first LGBTQ member of Congress from the South. But it looks like Colin Allred is going to be the Democratic nominee for this seat. This is a Democratic seat, so Republicans will be running against him, but this is going to be something that Democrats likely will be able to pull off this fall. But let's get out to Kevin Reese, who's been with the Allred campaign all evening tonight. Kevin?
Yeah, and Mr. Allred made an appearance here about 45 minutes ago. You can see behind me that he has left. His entire watch party has left as well. And even though it has been called now by the Associated Press, he did not declare victory in his speech, although he said with a 10% differential that the numbers are looking good. And in his speech to the watch party here, he already is moving his conversation to the fight against the Republican Party. He was very energized, and this is part of what he had to say about the fight ahead for him.
But when we beat them in November and we take back the Congress, we're going to hold them accountable. I'm telling you. I want to see butts in seats. I want to see hearings. I want to see investigations. I want to see us hold them accountable. They've been breaking the law. And we're going to make sure folks know about it. And here in North Texas, if they come into Dallas or they come into these communities, I want them to know that I'm going to be watching. Yes. And that if you violate my people's civil rights, I will be there to fight you every step of the way. You hear me?
So a fiery, energetic speech from him, but again, he did not officially declare victory. He said maybe tomorrow morning we will hear from him. Certainly will not hear from him tonight. Meanwhile, the Julie Johnson race, my colleague Brittany Costello is following that race, where we hear that she has not yet conceded either. Brittany?
Right, Kevin. We heard from Congresswoman Julie Johnson just a couple of hours ago. At that time, she did not concede the race, but her speech was emotional. She started by thanking her supporters, but she did recognize the gap. And then she also pledged to support the Democratic ticket, but also wants to wait for the numbers to come in. She told supporters just a couple of hours ago, if it does not go her way, she will accept that. She says it's been a pleasure serving North Texans. She believes redistricting is to blame.
It's had its intended consequence where none of the current incumbent members are likely to return to Congress here in North Texas. And so the Republicans, we cannot let them win in November. We have to double down as Democrats. We have to come together and unify behind our ticket.
Again, we do not expect to hear from her again tonight, and you heard straight from her, she does plan to support the Democratic ticket. Back to you.
All right, thank you very much, Brittany. Colin Allred's opponent is being decided tonight on the Republican side, and the Associated Press has now called it for Patrick David Gillespie, who was facing off against John Sims.
All right, let's bring in Jason Wheeler. He's been on the big board all night watching all these races and the results come in tonight. Let's look at a few of the big races, take them apart, but then all the other big races we've been watching tonight as well.
A very quick word about the marquee race of the night, and that's for the GOP side for the U.S. Senate race. A lot has been said about this. I just want to point out the overwhelming nature of this. There are about 28,000 votes difference between these two in the primary just less than 3 months ago. Tonight, 342,000 votes separating them. Ken Paxton just running the table. John Cornyn only picking up, edging him out in 3 counties in Texas. One of them, a tiny one, where he has 6 votes and Paxton has 2. Beyond that, it's Travis County and Dallas County. That's all he took tonight.
Wow. The other big news tonight is on the Republican side for Attorney General.
Yeah, this is, of course, to replace Ken Paxton. Mays Middleton called on the GOP side as the winner. He'll be taking on Nathan Johnson, the senator from the Dallas area, and that's no surprise. This kind of mirrors what we saw in the primary a couple of months ago. That should be an interesting one. But again, on the Republican side, the MAGA candidate, just like we saw in the Senate race, just like we're also seeing in the Railroad Commissioner race. This one has tightened significantly as we've gone through the night. About 21,500 votes separate them now. Jim Wright is the incumbent, was supported by all the power structures in Austin. Beau French, very controversial, very MAGA candidate. And again, it just shows that the MAGA has done very well here in Texas tonight.
Indeed, so there are a few more Democratic races we want to make sure we hit as well.
Yeah, we want to hit this one. This is District 18 down in the Houston area. You might wonder, well, why are you watching that one very closely? This is a generational change. It also just says that Democrats were ready to move on. Al Green has been there forever, has all the name recognition in the world, but again, a younger face will now take over in that district as well. And then lastly, we'll just point out Lieutenant Governor on the Democrat side, Vicki Goodwin. She will take on Dan Patrick, who will be a tough opponent to beat. Big war chest there.
It was an early night. To bottom line here, headline for you, Chris. Early night for so many of these races. The Beau French Railroad Commission race against Jim Wright is one we are still watching tonight. I'll be back on daybreak with the latest results on that.